Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's well today. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar, which is our second topic in our invoicing badge series. And today we're going to be covering those credit notes and is going to be presented by myself, Laura. We've also got Michael in the background who's ready to answer any questions that you may have around today's topic. So make sure you pop those in, get them across to him, keep him busy there. We've got 45 minutes booked in. You may get a bit of time back at the end, just depending on how long it takes, how many questions we get as well. So as I say, this is the second part of our invoicing 2026 digital badge series. So we did entering those product invoices the other day. The other topics that we've got there on the screen: emailing and printing your invoices, understanding and applying discounts, adding things like a logo and payment terms to your invoices, and filters and custom fields there. So you would need to attend 5 of the 6 topics plus one of our quiz sessions just to earn that digital badge, and we will be repeating them. So if you have missed product invoices, that is going to be repeated as well. And there is a link on that slide there just so you can get registered as well. So today we're going to be looking at an introduction into creating and allocating credit notes and how this could impact stock if that's involved as well. I'm going to run through some demonstrations and some scenarios there in my software. And then we'll look at further support in the way around our help centre articles, along with getting any questions answered that you may have as well. So in Sage 50 accounts, you can raise credit notes to print and send or email to your customers. Once created, you can update the ledgers, so the value then appears in your customer and nominal accounts, as well as adjusting any stock if stock is involved. Examples of when you would raise a credit note may be if you need to refund a customer, for example, if they've returned goods or if goods have been damaged in transit and you need to agree to refund them. Or maybe a customer's just changed their mind. The process involves raising a credit note from within the Invoices and Credits module, where you can then email or print to send them to your customer, and then update the ledgers. So the last two, printing and updating the ledgers, those two steps can be done in any order on there. It really doesn't matter which way that you do that. If you've updated the ledgers, you can then print it. It's not a problem doing it the other way around on there. Just logically thinking, that's how I would do it. But updating and then issuing it to your customer is totally fine, whichever way works for yourself. There's also the credit invoice option, which will generate a credit note for existing invoices. So what you can do there is you can generate credit notes for both updated and non-updated invoices. And updated just means that it's been updated to the ledgers, so it shows on both your nominal codes and adjusts any stock involved as well. So it's not just sitting within your invoices and credits module. If you have an invoice which has been updated to the ledgers and it's not allocated to a payment yet, you can at this point then choose to allocate that credit note to the invoice using the credit invoice option. If the invoice has been paid and it has a payment allocated to it, you'll get a message just letting you know you need to allocate this manually, and we'll look at that in the demonstration in a moment. If there's stock involved, raising a credit note would also create a goods returned transaction. So that's going to adjust the stock back into you or into your product there. If stock's not been returned and you don't want the stock adjusting back in, you can use what's called a special product code on the credit note, and I'll come on to that a bit later as well. I'm going to pop into my program and we'll start having a look at some of the demonstration there. So the first thing I'm going to do is just open up a credit note just so you can see a blank one. So I'm going to go into credits, invoice and credits here. I've already got a couple of invoices entered in here, but I'm just going to click on new credit at the top. You can see a lot of them are grayed out at the moment because I don't have anything highlighted. And this is just going to open up a blank credit record or credit note record here. So we can see we've got some options down the right-hand side here. We've got the type, which is a credit. So that's blanked out. We can't sort of use the drop-down box for that because it's a credit note we're creating. Gives us the format, so product or service. So we're concentrating on products today. And then we've got the date as well. So the date can be amended if you want to. You can type in it. So you can just type in the box there and amend it. Or if you click, there's a little icon here. Click on that, it'll give you that window with the little calendar in there. So then you can click on the dates from within here. And then we've got the account. So from here, you can select your customer just from the drop down. Obviously, if you've got more than 3 customers like myself and you need to search for one, you can just type in the name here and search for it that way, make it a bit quicker than scrolling up and down. If I just select one just to show you, you can see that it pulls through the customer's address on there for us as well. There's also a little smart link just to the left there. If I click on that, that'll just open up the customer's account details. Opened it up on the other screen. I'll just drag that over. So it's just a smart link to that customer's details there. Just close that. Also got the credit number as well up here. So a bit like the invoicing number, that's going to be set to auto number, and the number will be allocated to the credit once you save it. So if you've got multiple people entering invoices or credits at once, just means there's going to be no duplications there. And then under that, we have got the order number. So you can free type into that box. So if you've got a number that you want to pop in there, you can do, or if you're on the professional level and you have a sales order module and you've got a sales order number you want to pop in there, you can free type into there as well. Then we've got sort of the main body of it here. So we can click on and choose our item line. These are our special codes, and I'm going to come on to those a bit later on. But I'm just going to select one just to show you that the line appears in red, and that's just to indicate that you're in a credit note here. So we're creating a credit rather than an invoice. So I'm going to close out with that for the moment and just give you sort of a scenario. So first one would be, say a customer has bought some goods and they have paid for them. So we'll take this invoice here, for example. So invoice number 2, so just click on edit to show you, just to open it. Nice and straightforward. It's just got the one item on there, got the quantity of 10. Customer has changed their mind and they want to return the items. So at this point, we have got our invoice. Now this has been updated to the ledgers. We can see here it's been posted to the ledgers. So that means that it has created transactions. So if we come into here, we've got our sales invoice here. And it's also been paid for. It's also created a sales receipt as well. They've paid for it. And because it's been updated to the ledgers, if we go into our products and services, into bricks, just have a look at the activity, we can also see that we have that goods out transaction there as well. So we've got goods coming out of there too. There's also a little smart link that you'll see there. Now, if I click on that, that will open up the invoice for me. So it takes me straight back to that invoice that we had a look at just before. We will also have, I'll just close out with that one. If we go into the customer record, so it's customer number 1, we'll have a look at the activity. We'll also have, there's our sales invoice, and allocated to the sales invoice is the sales receipt. So they've bought it, had the invoice, they've paid for it. So what we need to look at doing is, because there's stock involved, we need to look at raising a credit note from within the invoicing credits module. So I'm just going to close out of here. We'll go back to that invoicing credits module, and you've got 2 options. Now, we can either have a look at just clicking on new credit and just entering all those details into there if we want to, or when highlighting the invoice, we can click on the credit invoice option. Now, if I just clear that highlight for a second, you'll see that a lot of things, you can't click on them. It's because I've got nothing selected. If I click on that, it becomes available there. So if I click on credit invoice, it's going to populate a credit note for me. It has all of those details on there for me. So it just makes things a bit easier, especially if you've had an invoice with multiple lines on. This one's quite straightforward, but if you've got an invoice and it's got 10 lines on it and you need to sort out a credit for that, if you've just clicked on that rather than keying it all in, it's going to save you time, isn't it? So at this point, we've got the date, which we can change if we want to. We can even change the customer if you wanted to. You can change products and things. And I'll come on to having a look at one that's got more than one item in there. But obviously we've got that red line on here showing us that it's a credit. All I then need to do is just click save. And we'll get a message that will pop up, and it's asking us, do we want to update this credit note? So do we want to update it to the ledgers? And do we want to allocate it to invoice number 2? Now, because it's been paid, there's already a payment that's been allocated to the invoice. And when I say OK, and I click yes to that, what it'll do is it'll tell me that I need to allocate it manually. So that just means that there'll be a balance on the customer's account that we can either refund or leave as an amount outstanding on their account until they want to use it. Just sort of depends on what the customer wants to do. But by clicking yes, we will get this message, which has popped up over here. And because I've clicked yes, it's updated it to the ledgers for me, but it's telling me that that existing invoice has been paid in full. So we need to allocate it manually. So I'm going to say OK to that. And we'll see that it will create that credit note there. So I've got on that line number 4, I've got a credit note now. If we can go across, we can see that it has been posted to the ledgers. So if we go and have a look at our products and services now, and we'll just go back into the activity for the bricks, we can see now I've got a goods returned note. So those bricks have come back into us. We've raised that credit. We've returned those goods in. So it's adjusted that stock back in. I've got that smart link as well. So clicking on that smart link will open up the credit that I've just raised there. It just takes me straight to it. So I don't have to go hunting around for it. It opens it straight from there. And also, if we then go and have a look at the customer, customer 1, go to the activity, we can see now there's my sales invoice, the original one. There's the sales receipt, and now I've got my sales credit. And again, these have got smart links on them as well to take you straight to those invoices or credits. And if we just follow it along to this end here, we can see here we've got an outstanding amount of £24. There's a little asterisk there just saying that's outstanding. And there's also that balance on the customer's account there. So like I say, at this point, we could either leave it on their account for them if they want to do that, or we just click refund at the top and just select our customer and refund it to them. So generate that refund just by clicking into the box and then paying it in full. And that just sends that back to the customer, save that and close it. There's no balance now. So if we now go back and look at the activity, there, all nice and rounded off. So we've got the debit for the invoice, the credit for the receipt, and then we've got the sales credit, which is a credit on there, and then we've got that payment, which is the refund to the customer. And it's also adjusted that stock back in as well. Now, if an invoice which had been updated to the ledgers, but the customer hadn't paid for it yet, so if there was no payment, but we'd updated that to the ledgers, when it asks us if we want to allocate that invoice, the credit to the invoice, it'll just allocate it for us. So it just makes it a bit easier on there. But because that one had been paid, it's telling us we need to allocate that separately. So we'll have a look. I'm going to pop back to the slides because I want to cover over the special products, so the special product codes there as well. So I'm just going to open up the slides again. So like I mentioned there, the special codes before. So we've looked at creating a credit note, which will allow you to adjust that stock back in. But what about if you need to raise a credit note and you don't want to adjust that stock back in? So for example, you've got goods which have been damaged in transit and you've agreed to refund the customer. This is where you can use the special product codes. So there's 2 options using the special product codes depending on the tax rating. One 0 rated, the other one is chargeable. So if I've got a customer who has received some goods, but some were damaged and not worth sending back. So in this scenario, we don't want to adjust the stock back in because no stock's been returned to us. We just want to raise a credit note for part of it. So here we can create a new credit and enter the details manually using the special item lines. So I'm going to pop back into my program just so we can have a look at that. So if I go back to my invoices and credits, and we'll choose number 3 for this one. So if I just open up this one first of all so we can have a look at it. So we've got 3 lines on here. So in this example, so they have had some bricks, they've had some plasterboards, and they've had some screws as well. So say 5 of those plasterboards were damaged during transit, and we want to raise a refund for them, but we don't want to adjust that stock back in. Now, if I click on credit invoice, that's just going to create a credit note with these details on, which I can then amend at that point. So as I mentioned before, we had it nice and easy where I clicked on raising a credit note, and I'll just show you that. So if I close this, if I was to raise a credit note, it's going to have those lines on. It's going to adjust the stock back in. We don't want that to happen. If I did want to adjust stock back in, and I've got multiple lines on here, but I only wanted to say adjust the bricks back in, you can highlight lines and you can either click F8 on your keyboard or remove row. And what that will do is it'll just remove out anything that you need removing. And say you wanted to just do a credit for 10, a quantity of 10, you can adjust that as well. So if you've got an invoice that's got multiple lines on and you just need to raise a credit for part of it, you can raise that credit and you can then just adjust it, just to say what you actually want to be crediting back there. But for this example, I'm just going to close that and say, no, I don't want to save that. In this example, we want to raise a credit and we don't want to adjust that stock back in. So what I'm going to do in this one, I'm going to click on new credit at the top. And it was customer 3 that we had. So normal, I'm just going to go over here. We can adjust the date if we want to. And I'm going to choose customer 3. That's the original customer. And I'm going to use the drop down. And you'll see at the top here, we've got these special item lines. So we've got the M, which is the message line. So that's where you can add a bit more detail. So I'll show you that in a moment. I'll add a bit more information. But what that'll do is it'll also appear on your credit note or your invoice if you're using your special codes on an invoice. So when you print it and send it out, it'll give that more granular detail from that message line. But I'll show you in a moment. We've also got the S1. So our there was 4 plasterboards on there, so those had tax on them. So I'm going to be using this one because it was tax chargeable. We've got S2, so that's if it's 0 rated. And then if you're using the service items on there, that's tax chargeable, so that's S3. So I'm going to be using the S1 line. So I'm going to click OK to that, and it will bring up an additional window, which is our edit item line window. Tells us we've got the product code, which is S1. And in the description on here, I'm just going to put plasterboards returned. And it was 5 that they were sending back. So this units up here, this is just for reference only. We can pop some more comments on here as well if we want to. If you want to add an order reference number on there, you can as well. And then in the quantity, it was 5 that were damaged. So I'm going to just key in 5, or we can use the little keypad icon there and click it in using our mouse. And the unit price, it was £10 each. So you'll notice there when I pop those details in, because I'm using S1, which is tax chargeable, it's defaulted it to a T1 tax code. And now you can change that from here if you want to. It's also popped in the nominal code for me as well. Again, you can change that from here as well, but it's popped in those details there for me. So it's actually popped the amounts in. So I'm going to say OK to that, and we'll see it populates this. Okay, so we've got customer 3, we're raising a credit. The credit was for £60 on there. It's not going to adjust the stock back in because we're not using the stock or the product code. We're using one of the special codes. Now, if I just tab along and go into here and use that message line just to show you. So I'm just going to say OK to that. Drag that over. And in here, you can just add a bit more detail. So maybe it's agreed to a refund, just so we can see what it looks like. And I'm just going to say OK to that. And then we can have a look. It doesn't put a quantity. There's no price on there. There's no VAT or anything like that. These all just remain as 0 on there. So I'm going to save that. And you'll notice it doesn't ask me to allocate it at this point. There's no sort of, do you want to allocate or update it? It's just raising that credit note for us. So there's our credit note there. Customer 3, £60. Has not been updated to the ledgers. So at the moment, if we go and have a look at customer number 3 and go to the activity, we can see there's no credit line on there. We've just got the original invoice and we've got the original receipt. We've also got other items that are around it, but this was the original invoice. If I click on the smart link just so you can see it, there's our original invoice. I'll close out of that. So there's no credit note at the moment, and that's because we haven't updated the ledgers. So if I close out of here, I'm going to go back to my invoices and credits. I've got my credit highlighted, and I'm just going to click on Update Ledgers. You get this little window. You can either print it, you can preview, or you can save it. I'm just going to preview it. Click OK, just so you can see it. And I'll just make it a bit bigger so you can actually see what it is. And this just tells us what it's updating. So it's telling us invoice number 5, which is a credit in this instance. It tells us it's a credit here. It's created transaction number 11 in our transactions module. It gives us the date that we've created it as well, the account that it relates to, the nominal code, and the stock code you'll see there is our special code, special item code there. And it gives us a bit of detail, plasterboards returned, and then obviously the rest of the information, the quantity, the net, and the tax, and the gross, etc. So I'll close out of that. So we've got that created on there. So if we go back and have a look at our customer now, just have a look at that activity. And there's our sales credit there. So we've got the credit note there. And then at that point, you can see there, that is outstanding. They've got a balance of £60 on there. Again, that can either be refunded to the customer just by going in to the customer and clicking on refund, choosing the customer, just like we did before. And then you can refund that to the customer if you want to. Or they might just want to leave it on their account. I'll just close that and say no. They might just want to leave that on their account for next time, a bit like having a deposit on there or just a bit of an overpayment for something if you know that they're going to order again. But if we go into our products and services, just have a look at the plasterboards, just go to the activity, you'll see there we've got the original goods out transaction, but there's no goods coming in. So because we've raised it using that special code on there, we've been able to adjust the customer's activity on there, but we haven't adjusted that stock back in because it was damaged. We don't want that coming back in there. Now, for the special item codes, if you can't see them, it may just be that you've got them turned off. So if you go into settings at the very top and then invoice and order defaults, just tells us it's going to close all those windows there. Just wait for that to pop up. Oh, there it is there. Drag that over on here. So it may be that you can't see the special product codes on within here. We've got the option for, where is it on here? Invoice and order defaults. There, we've got it there. Couldn't see for looking. Show special product codes on invoicing. You've also got them in sales orders and purchase orders if you're on the professional level as well. But within invoicing, if you've got that ticked, you'll be able to see them. So if you're looking, thinking, I don't have those in there, where are they? Just have a look in your settings, invoice and order defaults, and you've got a little tick box there. Okay. So just to go over printing and emailing as well there. So this one that we raised on the special code along with that message line on there. So if I just go to print at the top, that can locate it. Now I've got a couple that are already in my favorites here. If you don't have any in your favorites and you've just got a list like this, you can add them to your favorites. So if there's one that you use all of the time, you can just click the little star and it will pop it into your favorites for you. Just makes it a bit easier to see. You'll notice as well, they say invoice/credit. So depending on what you've got highlighted, so I've got a credit highlighted, it will put the word credit on there. If it was an invoice, it'll put the word invoice on there. But I'm just going to preview that so you can see what it looks like. I'll just zoom in a bit, go down. So we can see here, we've got the plasterboards returned, we've got the information on there, and then we've got that additional message line that I was able to pop in there. So you can put further information on, which will just add it to the details, but obviously it doesn't generate any figures across here for you. So it just gives a bit more granular information if you needed anything there. You can also add things like a logo or bank details or change the text. These are all things that can be done within the report designer window. We are covering how to do this later on in the month. So if you want to have a look at our webinar sign up page, it can really make a difference to your invoices and your credits. Just having those details on there makes them stand out. I'll close out of there for now. There's also the email function at the top. So just by clicking on email, and we'll get the 5 or 6 on there, and it'll just pop that out to my Outlook that I've got there. So it just tells me it's in my Outlook now, ready to send. There's also the quick print as well at the top. So the quick print option, just to either print invoices or credits with just one click, just means that there's no need to locate the layout or choose the printer each time. So if you've got a favorite layout that you're using, it just makes the process much faster and easier to use. So if I'll show you where it is. So if you don't have a default set for your quick print, if you go into settings at the top, and we're going to go back to invoice and order defaults, tells us it's going to close those other windows. And it's just this window again that we had open before. So this is where we had to show the product codes on there. If we go into quick print at the top there, and you can do this for your quotations, sales orders, purchase orders, the others that we've got in here. But I've got a layout that I've already chosen. But if I click browse, see I've got one in here that I use on a regular basis. Maybe it's this one. I can choose that one. I can say OK to that. It'll pop it into here for me. So this is just for invoices and credits as well. I'm just going to say OK to that. When I then use the quick print, which if I've got one highlighted, it becomes available. When I click on quick print, it will print that out for me using that particular layout. So it just makes it a bit quicker than having to go into print, find it, select print from the top. A few other things just to show you back in settings as well, in invoice and order defaults. Just open that back up. We go into options in here. So in here, you can select a number that you want to start your credits from on here. So we've got, you can do this for invoices, sales orders, purchase orders, etc. Obviously, we're looking at credits today, so we'll focus on that one. But this might be used if you already have credits from another system, for example, and you don't want to start using them from zero. So my next credit, if I create another one, the next one it's going to go from is the next consecutive number. If you haven't been using the invoicing module yet and you're about to start using it and you want to keep your invoicing sequence, you can change that. So if I change that and say, right, I want the next one to start from 15 when I create a credit, I just say OK to that. I'll pop back into my invoicing credits. I'm just going to create a new, we'll just create a new random one. Pop it in here. Or bricks. Just the one. Doesn't need to be anything fancy, just to show you. So I'm going to save that and then close that window. The next one it is created, instead of it being number 6, is now number 15. So it's skipped over that. So if you, like I say, if you have invoices or credits from something else that you've been using, you don't want to start the sequencing from number 1. It could be that you're starting it from 387. You can pop that in there and just continue using your sequence. Back into settings again at the top and order defaults, because there's something else I'd like to show you in there as well. Drag that back over. So from options at the bottom here, you've got your special item lines as well. So you can change, you saw before, you can actually change when you're in the credit, you can change the tax code if you want to when it's S1. For some reason, S2, you can't though, but you can change it from within here. So if you wanted to change the S1 tax code, you can come and change it. So next time you create a credit or an invoice that has the special S1 code on there, and you want to go in here and change it to a different tax code, you could come and you could select it from in here, say OK, save that, and it would then use a T4, for example, that I've just randomly selected there. So you can change it from in here, and you can do that for your S2 and your S3 if you're using that as well. And then we've also got update ledgers on here as well. So this mentions invoice numbers, but it's also your credit number on there as well. So it's just saying what information do you want to transfer across to the individual transactions within the reference and the extra reference column. And you can choose what you want pulled through in those fields from here when you update those ledgers. So we normally recommend using the invoice number, or if it's a credit, it's going to use the credit number in the reference column, which just means you can filter on that and search if needed. But you can choose whatever you want to pull through. So if I show you the drop down, you can use your order number, you can use your customer order number, You can choose nothing for this one as well. And I'll just show you where that pulls through to. So I come out of that and go into my transactions. So it's these columns here. This is what it pulls through. So these are, at the minute, my reference column is pulling through my invoice number on there. So this one is my invoice number 1. And you can see those going down on there for that. So just asking you what you wanted to pull through into these 2 columns. Now, if it's something that you're not hugely familiar with and you think, I'm a bit worried about trying it out, try it out in the demonstration data. So if you go to File at the top and click Open and go to Open Demo Data, just tells us it's going to close all unsaved windows there. So if you were in the middle of an invoice, it would just close out of that, wouldn't save it halfway through. You'll see along the top, it's changed to stationary and computer mart. So that's just a generic demonstration data. Everybody has their own set of demo data. So if you go into it, you're not going to find other people processing in there. It's unique just on your system there. But you can go into here and you can create. So it's got transactions in here already. It's got customers, it's got suppliers, it's got products. You can come in here and you can have a play around with it, create some credits, create some invoices, see how it impacts the data on there, just so it gives you an idea. And then you're not using your live data. Just to go back into your live data, once you've finished doing that, you're just going to go to File at the top, Open, and Open Company Data. Just tell us it's going to close those windows again. And then you can just choose your company to go back into. It's as simple as that. So it just means if you are worried about sort of doing anything in your live data, you can have a play around in that demonstration data, which is just a set of data that Sage made up. And it's just great for learning in there as well. I'm going to pop back to my slides there. Also included some useful links as well. So I've got things on there like creating that product credit note for a customer, which is what we've gone over there on the demonstration. We've also got updating invoices or credits to the ledger as well. So that's when you click on Update Ledger and it goes from just sitting in that invoices and credits module to appearing on your nominal codes. You've got them showing in your transaction module and it impacts your stock. And we've also got creating a credit note for an existing invoice on there as well. So that's when you can just click on create that credit note and it pops up and it pre-populates all the details on there for you, just making it a bit easier. I've also popped on the link there for our webinars page where you can see all our webinars for 50 accounts and for 50 payroll as well. So you can click on that link once you've downloaded those slides. That'll take you to we've got our recordings page on there as well as signing up for our live webinars as well. But that does bring us to the end of today's session on there. So I hope that you found that useful and you can see that running through and creating those credit notes on there, the differences around how it's going to impact stock, how you can actually raise that credit on there without adjusting stock back in as well, using those special codes too. But what I'm going to do is I can see there's another question that Michael's looking at the moment. So I'm going to pop myself on mute just while we get those last couple of questions answered. But if you do have everything that you needed from today's webinar and you've downloaded those slides on there, don't forget that you will get that survey when leaving today's session, which I'd love it if you could leave us any feedback and pop us any comments in there as well. If you do have any topics that you'd like to see a webinar on perhaps, but I'm going to pop myself on mute now just while we get those last couple of questions answered. But if you're leaving now, I hope you have a lovely afternoon.